Oh, so I'm going to talk about Freebird today. Um, this is, and I'm going to warn everybody, I'm kind of angry at somebody, and it's not anybody. I, remove some people, and I don't want them to think it's about them. It's really not. Um, on some social media, but it's not. It's more of a just, I'm getting, those like fake profile things going on. And one, I don't want them spreading really to, people I care about. But so anyway, I removed a couple of people from profiles and social media, and just don't want, that to spread, I guess is what I'm saying. But before I go into this, I have this. I warned my daughter about it. I'm like, I have Mars and Scorpion going on right now. That whole warrior, till the death thing, and I'm like, it's not. It's just a transit. It's not gonna last. But man, I haven't blown up at anybody in ages, and this kid, and to me, it's funny now because I remember when people look at me when I was like in my 20s and call me a kid, and me just be, how dare you? I think I've been older than dirt since I was young. But um anyway, he made the mistake of calling me lazy. And I just went loose on him because, for one, I've always worked. So I get really irritated with people that call me lazy. And a lot of it has to do with this art thing and programming thing, even, Um, you have to sit for long hours and be still and focus to get a piece of artwork done or music done, or, you know, hours and hours and hours of just sitting in one place practicing over and over again. Art, music, it's all the same. Any kind of if you want to be good at it, um any kind of creative field, you know. So there would be hours and hours and hours invested. I'm telling you, I hated HTML when I first learned it. And I would be, I don't understand, and I would like throw these, I'm sure my kid was like, Mom's lost it. She's 8 or 9, and just Mom's up there like throwing bucks, and and I wasn't mad at nobody. I was mad. It's an inner challenge thing, you know. So anyway, somebody made a mistake, called me lazy, and another person's done this to me, and that's because they don't understand the work they just totally cannot. They enjoy music, they enjoy, art and cartoons, and all these, like, takes a lot of effort to make things, and but they don't seem to get the work that goes into it is way more than the 2 seconds, uh, uh, like a animated gift would pop up on your screen. And that's why you have all these, things popping up now. There's so many creative people that, have gotten involved in the same stuff I have, that we got to get it out faster and quicker and better. And, because, you know, people don't get it, they don't. Anyway, so, I have been working, and I brought this up before, since we got those stupid cows when I was, hang on, I gotta think about this. Maybe 7 or 8, something like that. I was, I was in school. I would come home, and what, anyway, I've been, like, you know, little bitty thing out there fighting a water hose to pull it quite a ways to get it to the cows, and it was never where it was supposed to be, and it was always this big long struggle, and it was just, you know. So I've been in my own way working, but not, and here's the other thing. This piece is about roots, okay? Knowing who you are, all right? Where you came from, why you like something. This is another thing about why I called it Freebird, because it's like a bird looking down at its roots. And that's kind of what I was doing at the time. And this was like a great piece for me. You know, it showed how fractals are in our world, okay? But it also was like my point of view of looking down at everything, my life, you know, and looking way back into the past. And, you know, this whole work hard thing, I never have been, oh, I've worked harder than anybody else, because my grandma and, you know, my aunt, my dad, and all, my grandma picked cotton. And if you haven't done that, I picked one, okay? And I split my finger open when I did it. But if you don't understand having to go out pick peaches or cherries or, you know, tomatoes or, you know, and do any of that hard, you know, manual labor, then you don't really understand me, okay? So I never thought that I was overworked, because I've sat out in the field, you know, waiting for my dad did soybeans, you know, and know how hot it gets, and, you know, just how, you know, you gotta just push through and get it done. And so for me, my grandma doing that and my grandpa doing that kind of, even, you know, the kids all pitch in, and them having to do that, you know, growing up, like, before there were actually ways to pick cotton without, you know, hand picking it. Um, to me, the labor that I did was nothing in comparison. And I have a huge respect for those that have um, had to do that, you know, and scrape up from the bottom and pull yourself up. So, you know, when we moved up here, some of the, you know, kids, they just, I don't know, didn't get it. I guess. I got it at a real young age that I was very, you know, those piano classes that were paid for me, or, you know, art classes were really worked for, um, it was hard labor to get to the point that they could do that. And it was a, my grandma insisted kind of thing. You know, they're going to have a better life than we had, you know. So I remember, and this is kind of what I'm talking about, is with Freebird. Leonard Skinner, okay, is a Southern band. And I'm up here, you know, people are listening to frickin' Madonna, and I'm not slamming Madonna, she's a great business person, okay? But the I'm listening to Leonard Skinner because, you know, those are my roots. And it reminds me, you know, the good parts of home, or the, you know, whatever, the traveling up here. You know, just my dad thought he'd be freer coming up here. That it wasn't always you have to just work so hard for, you know, my whole, like, kind of motto is work hard, play hard. Um, but there is a work harder, or work smarter, not harder kind of thing too. So you know, somebody made a snotty comment to me about, well, who are they? You know, and me just kind of going, how do you not know who they are? You know, because to me, they were just, well, what do you mean you don't like them? Have you even listened to them? You know, but it was kind of me defending my roots, you know, that, you know, there's a piece of you that when you move, it's only like 600-700 miles away, but if you move from a different place, you take a part of that. That's part of your history, you know, like the bit about my grandpa owned a gas station. I don't tell people that, you know, so they're running around maybe, and I'm not being mean, imitating some of the reason things I've done and not understanding maybe why I'm doing it, you know, or why I find that fun, or why I find that interesting, or why I, you know, get into the things that I do. Because I'm very much, I know who I am. And while I'm not, I've been up here a long time now, I'm not Southern anymore, but I'm not exactly, I don't like, I just keep calling it kind of a crossbreed between Southern and Northern, or Republican and Democrat, or something like that. But this piece is very much about my roots and me knowing them. Not everybody does. And, you know, there was a point, and I'm going to say it, because I'm not going to sit here and talk about my siblings all the time, but when I start thinking about my childhood, that is a part of it. My sister said, I'm not a farmer, and I wanted to punch her in the face. I didn't, you know, or anything like that. But I'm just kind of like, can you just go find your own thing to do? You know, quit worrying about what I'm doing, kind of deal. And even a part of my own roots, there is some, and I'm not sure, I'd have to probably ask a relative about this. There was some, and I was little, argument about some store, or what used to be a store, or I don't know, like a general store or something. And, you know, my dad being mad about it, and I don't even know the gist of it, you know. So there may be another reason that I got into that, you know, that I felt that being smart about business was important. Um, not just, you know, you pick these things up. What to, well, make sure when you're older you know how to do this, so you don't get taken advantage of or something. Blah blah blah. So to me, I just been going around, going, well, I know I need this skill from this one, and I know I need this skill from, you know, this was part of my roots, and this part of my roots, and this is a part of my roots, and you know, and just kind of going, what'd you learn? Because despite even my grandpa and my dad not getting along, um, my dad would say, well, he's good, at least a good businessman, you know. He had a stable business, gas station slash um, mechanic repair shop, and you know, he did well his whole life. He wasn't a millionaire or anything, but I think even that, there was a drive in my dad that was, I'll show you I'm not just some stupid farm boy, you know, to him. You know, because you don't like people snotting you. And what was interesting is somebody told, because they don't know, they just know I'm from the South. You know, they don't ask too much about it. Or when I was younger. And it's so, you know, so long ago that people, they just, oh, well, you're from whereabouts, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, they don't ask details. So I was like little integrated farm girl, artist, you know, that really appreciated. And this is the truth. I hated piano at first. I did not want to learn this thing at all. But there was a respect for somebody paid for it, and they had a dream about it, and worked really hard to manifest their dreams and respect that. So you're going to sit here and you're going to learn this shit whether you want to or not. And I at first was like really rebellious because I really don't want to do this, you know. But as I worked into it, I appreciated what they put into making it a reality that I could actually take that class, you know. um, so I put myself into it and I learned a lot from it. You know, like I was speaking yesterday, you learn about failure and pushing through it and, you know, practice and getting good at something. And that kind of morphed over into, I like art better. Well, not that. I did, you know, really appreciate music because I sat down and learned how hard it was to learn it. And we had my papa's brother, his wife, played guitar, and she was kind of like, you know, if there was a Loretta Lynn in our family, she was probably it. You know, and so there was a musical side to those older generations before TV and all that, that's how they would entertain. And you get taught this and you to appreciate it. And my grandma was no expert, but she could actually play spoons if she really wanted to. But anyway, back to this. This is what I was doing during this time period. I was thinking about how far back, and somebody, well, my aunt, no, yeah, maybe. Somebody brought a genealogy book to me that they had made, and I know they spent a lot of time because I almost jumped into, could have went down that track and didn't. I started to, and I'm like, no, no, no. I got to learn the programming stuff. You know, this is important to the art. But anyway, they brought me um, this book that had the whole family history in it, and you know, there's like there's roots, and they actually were the founders of a town, and you know, just this in-depth look at our family history. But what I'm getting at here, you know, I may have my head's way in a cloud, like a bird sitting up at the top of the tree looking down, but I'm very rooted in as well. You know, and I'll chalk that up now to, well, I'm surrounded by a bunch of earth signs. You know, and there's water and fire in my chart, and, you know, I'm just kind of, well, and I was feeling stuck, and I was thinking about this appreciating your roots thing, because there was a point in there where I knew it was my dad's, one of his big regrets was that he didn't move us back home. And I kind of have sort of had maybe the regret that I just didn't pick up and move to one of these places where I knew I would do better artistically. And now my kids are, this is where they're from, and you know, one of them like is never going to move, and you know, me going, well, you're stuck. You know, the kids are older, they don't want to move at this time period. They don't want to move and go through that, and um now that they're out of the house, they're, one of them is very much, I don't want to move. So I'm like, well, you know, when I was traveling, it was okay because I was still coming home. Are close, so I was touching base, so I could probably travel, but this is home now, and there was a part where I almost, I asked about maybe buying one of the pieces of land or whatever down there, and or at least the home plot or whatever, and going back and getting. But then there's a point where you just can't go back. You've got to move forward. And this is what I was thinking about with this piece and the Freebird kind of thing. I swear it's a funeral song. It gets played a lot at funerals now, but back when, it was first coming out, people up here were like, "Why do you listen to that?" I'm like, "Why do you listen to what you listen to?" So this is very much about, you can have your head in the clouds and have your feet on the ground, and your roots go much deeper than anyone sees. And it does, you do kind of sit around and kind of go, some people, think I'm just treating people like they think I'm shallow or whatever. um, that they don't, well, here's an instance. Out of nowhere, somebody was, well, she told me you're just a spoiled rich brat, and me just kind of going, boy, for somebody that was a friend, she didn't really know too much about me. To say that, because I'm really not, and never was. But this was kind of me thinking about all the years of work that had went into, what was going on, and my years even of work into it, and not getting paid, and telling being told, well, later down the line it'll be yours, and me just kind of, yeah, I get that part, and that's, you don't want to be rewarded by somebody's death kind of deal. It feels bad. And there's another thing that you always that's your thing, I want my own thing over here. So there's you share the same roots kind of thing, but you become your own tree kind of deal. And just head in the clouds, thinking about what I could do, and where was I going, and what direction did I really want to take during that time. Because I thought it was important that I not act on impulse, because everybody wants to give you advice on what to do, you know but very few share the same roots as you. Even though we like different family members, we may share the same roots, but my perspective of it is probably, you know, different than yours. And there may be deeper appreciation for the good and the bad of it, than, say, the sibling that we moved up here when she was not even 9 months old, maybe 9 weeks, something like that. Anyway, I do remember when we were coming up here that I felt like, because my dad's an earth sign, all right, um, that he just had a lot of weight on him when my papa passed. And I was thinking about that also, I'm talking to my daughter yesterday, we were having a heart to heart, and I'm like, I was just trying to hold it together because, grandma and daddy had passed, and I really didn't want that weight on you guys. Or trying to explain, well, I was grieving too, but I still have responsibilities. And I remember that, I was 4 when my papa passed, and I was really attached to him. I mean, big time. Um, I was Papa's girl, you know? And so I remember my dad going from, you know, not just a normal, good daddy to a depressed one, just trying to hold it all together. And, everybody was grieving it. It wasn't just me. And I was seeing it through a 4-year-old's eyes, you know. But when we got in the car to come up here, he had a lighter feel to him. Like this song is heavy, but it's also freeing. We'll put it this way, he was more hopeful, you know. And I'm not saying that he hated farming, because he didn't, but it was just a lot of pressure on him, and he was taking care of my grandma's farm too, which I don't think that he got proper credit for, you know. And he also lost his best friend in a car accident. So, he went through some trauma. And me and my daughter were kind of talking about this when we had this heart to heart, because she got kind of really like dark around kindergarten when she, and it was a really traumatic year for her because a little girl got hit by a bus right in front of her. And I kind of asked her, well, when did you start getting angry at me, or, how long has this been brewing? Because we all get mad at our parents, and then later on, you're like, as an adult, you start to see some of it through their eyes. Well, when I was young, I was kind of that way anyway, that I would just try to understand they're going through some shit. And we got to talking, and that's around when this happened with this girl. And what do you say as a parent that to your child that witnesses something like that? And she was friends with this little girl, so it was difficult. There's her being so young, and trying to explain. And I had the same. It brought up feelings about my papa, because I was young when he passed. That I tried to handle it the way, there were some things nobody meant to ignore me or anything like that, and I know that. But and they did, and they consoled me, but nobody really told me it was dead. Like, they didn't know how to explain it to me. So, my dad would hug me and love on me and stuff like that. I'm not saying, or just cry. So it wasn't really, they were grappling with their own grief and really not knowing what to say to a 4-year-old. And I found myself in the same situation when this girl passed, of trying to explain to a child what death was, and heaven, and God, and not trying to get too preachy or anything, because I really respected the fact that I did get to actually make up my own mind about religion and spirituality, and have my own personal relationship with God that wasn't like tainted by other people's opinion of what God was. So I tried to, you try and do better than your parents or your ancestry. And I've explained it to my own daughter, kind of like, every generation, we just have a responsibility to kind of do a little bit better than the last. We owe it to them. And that's where you get this piece about the roots. So there was she has like a total, she does not remember. She just totally blocked it. Uh, and I don't really want to sit and talk about, her emotional stuff, but it's an experience that other people have gone through, you know, and grappled with. I know I did as a child. And, you know, grandparents pass, it's a part of life. And, you know, we're in a more open time where people will talk more about it. Um, but I tried to console her, and I got this way when somebody passed that, the closest person to me really was my grandma. And she came up to give me a hug, and I'm like, don't touch me, you know, just get away from it. Because anger is a part of grief. And you will take it out on the one closest to you. You try not to, but you can. And so she had this anger that was directed at me, because I was the closest one to her, and I couldn't protect her from seeing that. It was an accident, and, they do happen. Anyway, some of the, this is what I'm kind of taught. You got to get to the root of why you're, like, with her, why are you angry at me? And, if you can boil it down and get to the root of it, you can, and this is my personal belief, you can solve anything if you can get to the root of what the real emotional issue is, or physical issue, or whatever. But and this kid is a Sag too, so this is interesting to me, because Sages can be very self-righteous, and think we know it all. And then there's the more evolved Sag that realizes they don't know it all, and tends to be more spiritual oriented, or, they get off their high horse. And some of this was, am I getting on a high horse here, or, what's the root of the problem here? What's the right direction to go? Am I making decisions to respect, the people who passed, and the past, or, is this you just being an ass, or, because I'm sorry to other Sag. I can say this because I am a Sag. Sometimes we are asses, and I'm pretty okay with saying no. I ain't perfect, and I do make mistakes, and I don't mean to hurt other people's feelings, And the kid, really, he didn't hurt my feelings because I don't feel the need to impress him, But that telling me I'm lazy thing just last nerve, He was already on my nerves anyway, and I try to look at it from a different, more compassionate angle, because I know the kid's been through a lot, but I also kind of go, there are people that, and I got on him about it. I'm like, you realize there are people on Earth that have had it worse than you or me, and, you can't sit and wallow in this and take this out on other people. And that was the point of view that I was coming from when, because there was a lot of grief going on, and I didn't want people just being reactors and being off each other and, spouting off. And there is a sadness to it, but there's also a, get grounded aspect to it. Same as the song, I'm as free as a bird now, but it's a sadness that, yeah, and you get that kind of from, same kind of vibe from, like, Janis Joplin. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. So I'm a very, because I have had all these earth signs around me, very, don't, even though my moon's like an air sign, very don't forget to let your feet touch the ground kind of person. I'll walk barefoot intentionally a lot just to keep grounded. But the kid hit a nerve in me, and I kind of had, you know, semi-abusive person, or tried to be abusive, um, with me trying to say that, and, you know, doing that bad-mouthing the other parent thing kind of deal. And it really boils down to, you just don't really understand the time involved to learn this. And you're not, here's the thing, I've got like 1,200 something pieces of artwork sitting over there. I know deep down, I've got two 365-day projects that are almost completed. I know I've been sitting over here working, but if they don't go look at the website, it just doesn't exist to them, you know? If they can't see the painting, it's not real. So that's one of the reasons why I really got into the print on demand thing. Well, here's your stupid picture, I have been doing something. It's not my fault. You're too stupid to look. And that kind of, because it grates on your nerves when you've put in a 12-hour day, 16-hour day, and you still come home and try and work on something, artistically or creatively, or in this, I don't know what you call one of us web people. They keep calling us creatives, and I'm like, that's such a broad brush. They did have a word, webmaster or something like that, but I don't feel like I've like mastered the web or anything. I just feel like it's, a chicken wire that got all mushed up into a ball, and you're trying to like structure it and make sense of it. But the other thing is, you can't get stuck in your past either. You have to be able to move forward, and people do pass, and you can't stay stuck in grief. You have to honor them, and you know move forward. And in some ways, I didn't feel like my dad ever really completely got over my papa passing, and I feel like my mom never completely got over her mom passing. I don't think when a major person in your life passes that it you go unscathed. And I've described it as like a little piece of you goes with them, and a 4-year-old notices this, that it changes you know. And some ways, you know, just get in touch with your own mortality and your own um, self-preservation kind of deal. Um, Also, this thing I was thinking about this, how do you get it? Because there was pictures where somebody did trees walking, and I'm like, yeah, because you kind of feel like you're stuck in mud, you know, like you're trying to pull your feet out of a really deep. You ever stepped in a like really damp, wet piece of earth, and your boot gets, it's so, you sink in it and you get so deep that you're trying to pull your foot out of it and the shoe comes off. It's that kind of feeling. So there's this whole, I could be mad at my dad for some of the things he did because he shouldn't have done them, like the whole spanking me and trying to put the fear of God in me thing. I hated that. I don't know if that's a Capricorn. I didn't need the fear of God in me. I've met him, you know. But anyway, that whole you understand, you know, maybe a little bit deeper than some people. And my dad would like get. I'd be the first to help, and people would be like, "But you're mad at him. Why?" Well, I can be mad. I'm still love him. But I'm not like gonna let it turn into a marshland or a wetland, you know, where nothing grows or a swamp. Anyway, this is what I was thinking about, and with this piece was, you know, look at your roots, think about which direction you want to go in. Should you, you know, like I said, I was contemplating moving and just being done with some stuff. Because I really have spent a lot of my time helping other people or managing other things and, you know, behind them trying to make their dreams come true where mine weren't getting done. And, you know, then they turn around and call me lazy, and you're just like, you know what? And, you know, the whole, and I don't want to say it because I'm trying to keep this clean, but this piece is so you're sitting up here on this branch and you're just hoping it don't break, that you can carry the weight of it, you know? And you know, when somebody comes at you with their own projections of who they think you are, they can be so off base, and you know it, and you know, and you trying not to let them get your goat and blow up at, but he just he said the wrong thing to me anyway. That whole yeah, you're lazy thing, really, because I'm running around circles because you people just keep getting in my way. And I love you and I care about you, and you know, but there's just, you try to understand people are human, and you know, they got their own quirks, and but there is a point where you're like, you know what, I got my own over here. And I don't need your shit today. So, you know, a lot of the big thing about this piece was me thinking about, well, he was finally free of all the stress and pressure that, you know, put himself under. And my dad really was more duty oriented than people understand. You know, people can project it any way they want to, but he was. And I don't know the full, like I said, I don't know the full story behind the tavern bar thing, or whatever. Yeah, I was really young, but part of the bar thing was directly, and I wished I really knew the whole story of it, you know. But I knew that that went back way back when I was young, about this, you know, him wanting to, he wouldn't have traded in farm or equity or anything to buy that bar if it wasn't some like it was a deep something he wanted to do when I was young and didn't feel he could, kind of deal. And you know, I was thinking about that, you know, we all have our own dreams and aspirate. Not everybody. Some people are just goalless or don't have any direction, and that's fine. But there are those of us that do, and that we've sat quietly in the background and worked on our dreams and our goals without a lot of pat me on the shoulder kind of thing. So this piece for me is uh, him, you know, kind of going to the other side. as well. And, you know, knowing that the experience that I had, that he'd feel so much lighter, and, you know, just not like gravity was pulling him down anymore. You know, he just had a real, and maybe this is why I have the serious side, you know, real serious vibe. And, you know, um, I think, um, because we did get to open that place, I got to see a lighter side of him that, you know, I hadn't seen since I was like 4 years old. You know, my grandma kind of, you know, coming and nagging or whatever. I don't want to paint a bad picture, but she'd, you know, be in other people's business. And a lot of the time, not intentionally, good-heartedly, her intentions were in the right place. She loved and cared about all of us. But, you know, she didn't get to see, she'd be, like, critical, you know, and him, her not seeing, he's more happy. He's working on his house over here, and, you know, he's remodeling something. He enjoyed that, you know, and he did, like, a gorgeous job on this house. You know, it took him quite a long time to do it because, you know, you gotta wait for the money or whatever. And, you know, that he had gotten to a place where he really was enjoying his life. There was a day that I kind of, because he would get depressed, kind of, and I kind of said, well, maybe he needs to try this medication. I don't know. You know, you couldn't get him to go to a doctor or anything. So I said, it's just a suggestion. I don't know if it'll work, or, you know, I'm not saying he's by, because I don't do that. Yeah, I'm not going to quickly go and say somebody's bipolar or they're manic, or, you know, just that he dealt with some depressing stuff, you know, that maybe he should try, what was it? I don't know. There was some medication that I found that really didn't have a lot of side effects. What was it? I don't even remember. Anyway, he tried it. And he was up, moving around, and behind the bar, he was actually bartending. He was laughing at people's jokes, you know, and you generally only see after he relaxed, and he was like who he was when I was a kid. But this is, you know, people can struggle with depression for real reasons and not be, you know, what they call it clinically depressed. And it's just like life's like knocked you really hard. It doesn't mean that you're manic or what, you know, or that there's something mentally wrong with you. You're reacting to life. It gets hard. And there was just an appreciation for this whole, because to me, you know, it's looking down on me as well, you know, that he has another now that his spirit's freer, that he has another perspective and can look down on us. And I was kind of getting hassled for wanting to go off by myself and grieve quietly, you know, that there was, you know, something wrong with Dana because she's just not grieving the way we want her to. And I just kind of, you know what, you need to respect other people's boundaries when it comes to that. You can't tell somebody else how to grieve. I would not do it to anybody. People talk when they're ready to talk, you know, and you can't force somebody to to do it your way. And I really, you know, I'd spent a lot of years counseling people here and there, in free time. Or not that I had a lot of it, but, you know, and just this, I'm going to do this privately in my own way, because it's kind of a, you know, God thing is a personal thing, or, you know, whatever you call it. And I didn't, because I was raised with, before I got stuck in that church school, that it's a personal relationship with God, and, you know, some things are just none of your damn business. So I don't have this whole, I feel like maybe when I was younger, you know, I go off half-cocked trying to prove myself, you know, to others, but the older I've gotten, the less I need to do that. So, you know, some little punk telling me I'm lazy, I'm like, dude, I have nothing to prove to you, you know, especially when it comes to my kids, because I already know I'd die for them. And it really should never have to come down to that, to tell you the truth. That you shouldn't have to. What happened to me was, like, it used to happen in the dark ages. It's not very common. It doesn't. It was a freak thing, and I pulled a lot out of it that has been like a foundation of being able to get through life. If nothing else, I have this deep down, and this is again with this picture, deep down roots that that I know I go on, so it'll be okay. You know, but like I said, I'm no hurry to get there, and I don't think anybody should be, or spend their whole life thinking about death and life. And you know, I've said this before, that some people get obsessive about religion, and they focus so much on the end that they don't even enjoy what they were given, which is their life. So anyway, I let somebody else go talk to this person and correct them on it, because the other person was like, yeah, she was out of line. Or, you know, and they talked about it later, so I'm sure he's feeling like an idiot, but I'm going to tell you, I have an appreciation for people that do manual labor, that maybe, not saying everybody's this way, but some people maybe don't understand what somebody's going through standing on their feet, you know, at McDonald's. And that it's a real effort just to smile at you, kind of thing. And, you know, they don't know what's going on with that person. And there's this whole thing floating around about, you know, you don't know what somebody's going through, so just be nice. Not everybody can do that. Some people like want to poke the bear. And my dad's nickname was Bear, so, you know, I learned at a very young age not to poke the bear. I did it once when I was 13 or 14 or something like that. No, I was probably 12. I poked the bear. Oh, I was a block away and told my dad to F off. The whole rebellious teenage thing, you know. And my dad's a big man. I had no idea that he could move that fast. But the whole situation was, I was angry, he was angry, nobody was happy with what was going on, and, you know, um, I confronted some stuff, and, you know, I think a lot, like I said, you take your anger out on who you're closest to. Or you can if you're not, and Sages are very, this and Aries, and I've only met a few of Leos, so, but they can take that fiery energy out on other people. So, you know, I'm like really grateful But I got taught how to channel it. You know, make it work for you. Don't combust. But I have this whole, you know, there's water in my chart in certain places, and you know, you say certain, do a couple things or say certain things to me, and it's like watching a pond just turn into full on steam. Anyway, was listening to another artist talk about don't let your ego, you know, get out of hand or anything, and I think that's what I was really trying to keep mine in check, because you know I do know that, like I said, I've witnessed it, that out of nowhere a Sag will say something to you like you're that way, and you just kind of, well, people do this in general sometimes, that, and you're just like, do you even know me? Because I spent like 20 years preaching about this, and they get preachy and stuff, and that's kind of what he was doing with me. You know, he's gonna give me a lecture about, I asked my kid to get a coffee, but I'd explain to the kids, like, I don't know, a decade around this time, that you know, that when you go get me a cup of coffee, it's just, to me, it's just your way of showing me a little love for putting in all this effort. It's like saying I love you without words, you know, to me. And he made some snide comment about it. I'm like, you don't get it. I don't care. And I got nothing to prove to you. This is something between me and her. It's none of your business. But that's when he made the comment about lazy. And I know there's people that could say it would say it about my dad at times. And I'm like, you know, I remember who was doing the work. I remember who was doing this or who was doing that. And, you know, like, siblings wouldn't know because too young or whatever. And me just kind of, so, you know, anyway, that is like kind of the one thing you could say to me that would just go, dude, my mom maybe said something like that. She said, well, you haven't had a job, or haven't worked. And me just kind of going, dude, I've been working for you people since I was little. Shut up. You know? But this is also, you know, artist types will get this a lot, that they don't see, like, you know, they see these 30-second clips of people doing artwork or something and go, oh, that must be easy, or, you know, that doesn't take a lot of effort, because, you know, it's a sit down and do it kind of thing, and it's not manual labor, or, you know, they don't see the guitar player that played until his fingers bled to learn how to play a song, or get the callus, or, you know, like, I have a wrist problem. I'll take B12 for it, because you know, just get on there and work myself into a frenzy. And a lot of the time I don't talk about this. You know, when I say I've done over 5,000 photo shoots, it's just so somebody can understand. I'm not bragging or anything like that, just so they understand. I have real experience behind this. And when a lot of people were getting on here and they're showing their work and they're trying to get clients through the internet and stuff, I had them. I didn't feel the need to brag about them or tell anybody what I was doing, but it was, you know, other than like a little small promotion on the studio, I don't feel this, I have to prove myself thing any. Maybe when I was younger I did. But that's the kind of feel to this too, is that you're well rooted, and you know who people are and who you are, and you know, if somebody doesn't want to, you know, learn any depth about you, that's fine. You know, some people are like a little too nosy and can make judgments on you that are just like totally not accurate. I know there was in the tell you the truth, some of this might even come from my own grandmother, you know, because she did work so hard before she was 40, you know, but nobody sat around telling her she was lazy from 40 to 79. They had enough respect for her to go, okay, you put your time in, you did your diligence. And I was kind of, you know, I'll catch myself, I'll go 30 days straight without like taking a day off, even sick, you know, working on stuff that I'm not even posting. And kind of going, why do you think you gotta work so hard all the time? And it boiled down to you know, there's two or three people that have kind of said these things, and me going, something in you it's working that hard to prove them wrong, and why do you even care anymore? You know, they're idiots. But the other part of it is, you know, you could really, when you have somebody that like does manual labor, or you know, more physical labor, not understand or even be able to relate to somebody that works um like with computers or programming, or you know, they just see a person sitting still, and they don't they don't see what's really going on. They just see a person that's really still and think they're being lazy. And you know, and I have like grappled with this before, you know, somebody putting this like in my kids' heads, you know, and where in the hell is that coming from? Because I've worked on, even when I'm not working, I'm working, you know, and some of it doesn't pay and some of it pays off, you know. You just, you have to, all they see is a really still person and chalk you up to a failure. And me going, well, you didn't see the year I spent, you know, learning how to program, or you got it, but you didn't. All you saw was dishes weren't done that day. Well, maybe, you know, work got busy for me, you know, and you don't even, um, and some people will do this with artists or programmers, or, you know, um, at least back in the day, I don't know, there's more respect for software people now than there was back then. You know, a lot of the time I was um, kind of looking up, because I'm really wanting, I really have believed that this artwork that I'm, fractal artwork that I'm doing belongs on a larger screen. So I was kind of, why are we still having this hang up that somebody can't just push a button and go to a website? And me thinking back, and and this is again about my roots, um, and stuff that people around me weren't getting into, that I was thinking about web TV. Somebody was trying to do that, and I went and looked it up. When were they trying to do that? Back in 1996. That's how long the struggle has been to try and get, you know, the internet and the TV to work together. And there are real forces behind that have like tried to keep that from happening. And you would see that same kind of web TV programming like through your cable distributor or something, where you can pull up the, you know, TV shows or something. They didn't want anybody to use that technology. And, you know, we're just now, it's like, we're not going to let that loose until we've got control of it and know that we're still going to get paid, kind of deal. And it's the same concept of, you know, Kodiak developed a digital camera back in the 70s, I believe, but they like did not want anybody to use that technology, you know, or advance it because it would be the end of their business. And it was a lot because they wouldn't get on, they wouldn't go with the advancements, they would hold it back, you know. So there's a real frustration for me at this level that, you know, and I'm talking currently, I was happy that I could finally go printing up an art piece. And even during that time period, I did an art show, and, you know, the asshole that used to call me lazy was finally seeing some of my artwork and shut him up, man. And he even built the stand that in the art, I've got a picture of the art show where the plasma TV is, you know, like hooked to this cart that I could roll around with it before, you know, we were, people were doing this kind of stuff, having to come up with these makeshift things to do, to show other people their work. I was like so proud of it. I bought like the biggest piece that I could. I had this like big window in my house, front window, and I had one printed up big enough just to put it in the window because we were in a busy street that people could just drive by and see it. And it wasn't me being egotistical, or it was just like a major triumph that finally this asshole that keeps calling me lazy, shut the fuck up. And you know, now that everybody's running around with their phones and they can see the artwork a little bit more, it's not as bad as it was. But you know, back in 1996 or 95, it was frustrating, you know. And I'm sure there was this mentality for my grandma, kind of, because she has that old school farm get up at 5, somewhere between 5 and 7, and get your day going, get breakfast done, and, you know, get up and get going. And so there's this whole not really understanding why every time I come to see you, you're sitting behind a computer. You know, it just didn't translate well. So, you know, and I felt this real struggle, like I couldn't learn something fast enough, you know, that it just, well, what's she doing now, you know? You know, because they can't see what you're doing. You know, my grandma was like, it was, it got to where, you know, finally she got an email and she could try to email and stuff like that. And, you know, like I stated before, she could, you know, play card games. She was starting to see, oh, this is the kind of stuff she's been working on. I kind of get it now, you know, but really not understanding the work that goes into it. Like me explaining this whole, I mean, really, it has, there's what, 50 languages or something now in programming? And this whole phone thing, I was like, I ain't learning it. I just, and now I'm going to have to, and do I want to take 6 months out just so I can have a button on your phone? Can you feel my eyes rolling in my head that I got to do this? And I don't think I'm the best programmer in the world because it wasn't my forte. It was just something that I felt I had learned back up, you know, doing art, and felt like it was, it in itself is its own little distraction. So that whole weight of the world thing that I'm talking about, and, you know, being really grounded, especially, you know, you're like a live wire kind of lightning bolt frequency kind of vibe to you that um or energy to you that people just, they just kind of shake their heads, you know, like she just gotten lost in that whole little world and what's she doing now? And you know, it just, there's a lot of pressure that I put on myself because of all this. that, you know, that whole weight of the world kind of thing or feeling, like, you know, going on that my dad had going on during in this piece. And the people that haven't, you know, jumped in to the internet the way that I did are, you know, just now getting real comfortable with it or using it. Some are still leery of like posting on even social media or something and thinking, you know, well, it's just not that important. And me going, you don't understand, there's a whole universe in this thing on top of the universe. And, you know, I got to do this and I got to do that. And I'm not understanding that they're, well, why can't you do it? You know, you've been studying or doing or, you know, me going, because this, it changes so fast in the internet world, yet it's just the same as real time, because I'm telling you, the technology was there in the 70s to do something. Somebody in 95 finally did it, and still was withheld back, you know, and pressure on them. And it's the same kind of pressure. People, um, well, I want to see some real results from it. And this is why so many of us were supportive of social media. Well, here, this is the dumbed down version. You know, do you understand now? But when you're very action oriented yourself, you know, like the photography was a good balance for me because I could move and do digital, you know, and interact with people. It was a nice balance between moving and being still, that people could actually see your work right then, was what I enjoyed so much about it. It's like, oh God, they don't have to wait, you know. It'd still take them a week to get the actual physical pictures, you know. So I was, but it was a lot better than, I know it used to take a month or more to get portraits back. And you know, things have gotten faster, but it's also, people's expectations are kind of unrealistic. I mean, I'm putting out these pieces that I don't even really consider real art. They're just statements about art, to be supportive of art, because I know I got to keep what's the word? People busy and them seeing something from you. But while you're working on something behind the scenes, and you know, it will take a year to develop another year when you're doing this alone the next year. And so it takes a while to, it's like a steam engine. And that's why I like the whole steampunk um, kind of craze. Is it's like a steam engine building up steam, and it takes time, and artwork takes time, music takes time. But you know, most people don't compute it took a musician a year to come up with an album, or even 2 years. And then once they do, you gotta get all the marketing, and then you go for a year, and you may be stuck on something for 5 years, that, you know, and people, well, what have you been doing for 5 years? I've been working on an album. Me kind of going, you know, but I took a look around during this time period, and you know, everybody, what is she doing over there? You know, she's not doing anything. She's just being lazy. And 1,100 something, I don't know, 10,000 pieces of freaking artwork for people to buy our products. And me just kind of, dude, I'm over here like building a brand, you know, and wasn't even, this is me coming home from work and um, just working on this on the side. But I'm really grateful that, you know, my kid loves me enough and respects me enough to actually get on there and look at it and go, yeah, Ma's actually worked on something. You know, she actually has a lot over here. And, you know, some people are very, if I can't see it, smell it, touch it, hear it, it doesn't exist. And this is the same thing, same way I get about the spiritual stuff, is just because you can't, you know, with your five senses doesn't mean there isn't a sixth sense there too, you know? And people under not understanding and then being fearful of it, or trying to make you feel stupid or like a failure because, you know, it's you haven't like become Da Vinci or Picasso or, you know, some famous artist by now, and, you know, made there's a joke that was on a Facebook artist group that, you know, we're all joking about this person that like took some duct tape and put a banana on a wall, and, you know, why am I putting in all this effort when somebody does like that and somebody buys it for $120,000? So I guess what I'm saying is there are those of us that really care about the craft and the art of it. And, you know, there's been times, even during this period, I was contemplating going back to traditional art because people really, unless they can like grab it with their hands and move it around on walls, they just don't get it sometimes. But they'll pass it around and share it and act like that person's time was nothing. So when print on demand, they could have done that a lot sooner than they did too, came out. It was like, finally, you know, somebody is actually being supportive of artists. But the other thing that I want to say about, you know, some of this is the only one that I've seen do it the way it technically probably is going to evolve into is Fine Art America. They hooked up with a person or company. I don't know if they make them or who, but anyway, it's a digital art frame, and you get the art beamed or sent to the frame, or you can pick out which art pieces you like, and they pay 5 cents per view, just like the radio station has to pay the musician 3 cents, 5 cents, or whatever for how many viewers or listeners they have. You know, I think the rates change on how many are how big their audience is. So, you know, it's going to, I think, morph into something more like this for artists because, you know, we need to get paid. I can't just sit here and do this for free. You got to buy the artwork, you know, either get the print, buy the product, pay for a membership, or, you know, understand I've got to eat too. But even at, I looked up, I had 50,000, well, more than 50,000 on Fine Art America. And if I translated it, 5 cents per view, it'd be around $2,500. That's like nothing. And I love these print on demand sites, but there's also something else going on here that's not right. Is these people that make t-shirts used to have to pay the artist to put the artwork on the t-shirt or the product. They've got artists making brands for them and doing it for nothing, all just on the off chance that and it's this whole same mentality of well, you're getting free exposure, you know. So there is a kind of, and I started posting on Society 6 and went back and looked at something, and I'm like, this is why you didn't join them. You know, there's products over there that I'd like to see some of my artwork on, but because I think, you know, some of my customers might like it on that. But the problem here is they have they won't let you um, put in a margin for yourself as an artist. So to me, yeah, you've got some nice products, but I'm not stupid. And there's a couple other artists that are kind of going, no, I am a brand and you need to treat me like that instead of and work out some kind of licensing agreement with me. And I'm kind of getting there myself when I go into making some of these projects that I want to make, that it's not going to be just me posting it on one of these websites and just promoting their logo and then turn into these, you know, like record companies that took advantage of musicians. It's not going to happen. And you know, the thing that I was talking about with Steven Tyler yesterday, talking about not getting paid, um, he actually mentioned Spotify is not paying them the money they should be. And this is the problem that I foresee happening is, and this is why, you know, web TV and stuff didn't get a lot of support, is because these controlling, like, businesses are, you know, they're real businesses, um, have a major influence, and people are going to start waking up to the realization that they're being taken advantage of. These, like, Facebook is kind of a good example. Um, or, you know, making content for any of these platforms, it's okay to do it to a certain degree to get exposure, but it's also um, a fine line there. Because one of the biggest things that, and I went, when my dad passed, I'm like, went and did my research about where's the best place to invest. And really, copyright is right at the top of that list because nobody can own your work but you. And what's happening is these big networks on the internet are replacing those old TV networks, or, you know, those big radio stations that used to be so big back in the day are, you know, smaller now, because, you know, things morph and change, so you see more power with these internet companies like Google or Facebook, or, you know, and they're taking advantage of people that actually really own the copyright, and just, you know, making some of us sign like these um, ridiculous agreements that they can just do whatever they want with our artwork. And I understand that they need a little bit of leeway to promote artists, like an art site would need leeway to do that. But, you know, some will take advantage of it. Others, I seen another. They got a really great domain name, and it's kind of, it's not the top of the line on the programming side of it. And I posted my stuff on there, and the thing is still on their website, but doesn't show up that it's mine. And I was like, nope, not doing it. I'll leave that one there just so I can point it out as an example why not to use that site to other artists. And there are ways to get on these sites and, you know, put content out for free and still make income. I just haven't, you know, these, and I do call them naysayers or haters or whatever in my personal life, that have just been obstacles in my way to me actually being able to use these platforms the way I should. You just leave me alone, you know, so I can actually do this. And this wasn't my dream job at all. Nowhere in the scheme of things did I ever want to turn into a one person media company. Yet that is what artists are being asked to do, just to put their artwork out there. And you know, I'm seeing. I watched a girl yesterday. I'm not going to say her name or anything. That she's really copying other people's crap. I mean, from the what she uses as a stick figure to draw her tune or whatever, and she's using a computer game to do a layout instead of actually going through the effort of really learning perspective, you know, which probably took me a year just to do, you know, of practicing and drawing rooms and stuff like that to understand perspective, you know. And she's just cheating, and she's taking it from, she'll set up a 3D model in a game and use it as her background and draw it, trace over it, and she's popular. She's selling stuff. And a lot of it she'll go take, and I understand getting your inspiration from different sources. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong with taking this picture, and this 3D model and just tracing it and saying that you made art. But, you know, that isn't even what really is disturbing me, is the fact that because we are so speeded up and people have this unrealistic idea of what it takes to do art, that, you know, people are cutting corners on learning basic foundations in art to be able to sell art to make a living, you know, and they're cutting it, they're not getting the right foundation as an artist, and then they're what they're doing is really trendy, and it's they're just they're going to end up broke and wasting more time, because they're going to have to learn to go back and do it, the actual work. And this is somebody that's been into digital, like, from the for a very long time, you know, saying you can take the shortcuts when you actually really have the foundation, you know. um like, some people will get really on a kick about the copying thing. I do. But it has more to do with people that just take other people's artwork, post a bunch of other people's work on art sites, and none of it's theirs. They don't own the copyright. They're just blatantly stealing and then trying to sell it and make the work off another person's um, hard work. They may be really good marketers or something, but I seen an example of this, and this is again what this piece is about: being very grounded in your roots, and having a foundation. There's a forest floor here, okay, in this picture, and I've seen artists that are not computer friendly, like old timers, get really mad about the digital revolution thing. And I'm, going back to that one artist that, well, I made my living and paid my mortgage doing art every day, or what, you clipped, cutouts of other people's artwork at the newspaper. I get it, okay? But, I also understand their frustration because they understand the business side of it, or the what I call brick and mortar, and then they don't understand the digital side of it. And you try to explain these got to come together where it works for all of us. And you see people, kind of doing what techniques like she was doing. Well, back when you're first starting art, I learned to trace Mickey Mouse in a book before I learned to draw it. And this is third grade, okay? Like art skills to me. And you eventually break out of the tracing thing and you learn the actual skill. What's going on is because things are so speeded up and the expectations of others is so unreasonable, and that you got to keep putting something out so people are paying attention to you, that you're undermining your own foundation. And the other thing is that here's a good example of artists who copy is tattooist, and I've seen it. The customer comes in, they want a certain piece, they picked it out off the internet, and they'll have to trace it and make it a piece of art on your arm. It To me, what they're doing really isn't taking away from the original. They're taking an original piece and they're making it their own. But any tattoo artist that has got any kind of clout or depth has actually learned the real foundations of art. They can paint, they can draw, they can do all this other stuff, and they have all those foundations down, or they don't stay in tattoo very long. And that is why we're getting a lot of this. Well, when you reach and put the pressure, some of these sites are putting the pressure, like YouTube. Well, you've got to have so many subscribers and you've got to have so many watch hours before we're even going to let you do monetization anymore. What they're doing is putting more pressure on artist types that are cutting corners and undermining their own skills to get out there, get saw, make some money, get those views or likes or vanity metrics. So, you know, it's just sad, I guess, is what I'm saying. And there was another, not famous or anything, but he's worked on pieces that are famous and people recognize him from that, was talking about don't let your ego get out there, because, you know, um, he was talking about people have to pump you up like that to sell art, and it's not always good for you, and don't let it go to your head, because you may get your 15 minutes of fame and be hot for a year and then, you know, fade back into the background again. And I've been doing art since I was little, and I can tell you there are times when I was like, king of the mountain, and there were times where big deal. And this is why this piece is important. It just reminds you to stay grounded in who you are. There's a Slipknot song about don't believe the hype. And it came out, and I was like, because you can let your ego get so inflated, like, this kid popping off at me, and think you're all that in a cup of tea. He finally got a job that pays decent and thinks he's shit, and you know you may be right now, but in a year from now you may not be. So, and this whole piece is just about staying grounded, okay, and really putting in the work. And sometimes, you know, you have to look at where you started, and and this is why I try not to get on big ego kicks or anything. I have my moments. We all do, but there's a difference between confidence and ego, and we all have to have an ego, but not an inflated one. We have to stay humble, and a lot of this work that goes into doing art is very humbling. That it does take a long time, and it, you know, to develop different skills and stuff, and people don't know the work that went into it. They don't know your roots. They don't know the foundation. They don't, and those things are important and keep you um, grounded when things go bad. This has been a rough year for me. I think I sold a sticker, but I know it comes in waves, and you have hard times through it and good. And not everybody, like some of these people where you're lazy, not everybody can stick through those rough times with you. And there's one artist I'm like, you don't know how blessed you have the spouse you do, because they're really behind you no matter what happens, good, bad, up, down. And I've witnessed other artists that they had a lot of potential and could have been great, and got caught up and not keeping working on their art as much, and kind of gave up on the dream, and could have been really exceptional. You know, it just kind of gets sloughed off like it's a hobby or something, and it's not paid attention to, and they get caught up in life, and then they have regret. And I guess because this piece is just kind of, I was kind of contemplating my own regrets, um, or I there was a part of me even kind of, why did you get sucked down the programming hole? you know, you got to know when to cut something off, fly away. Like last month, I was sitting there this morning going, what did you, because it's that time that I've got to go through the motions of putting some of this artwork together to be posted later and scheduled and all this stuff. And what'd you do last month? You had 20 days to go do something. And I'm like, you ended up working on the website, and redesigning it because you have a goal, and the way I had it set up wasn't really towards that new goal. And there are times you feel like you're just that tree that can't just pull up and walk away on to the next thing. And there's a part of me going, man, I'm sitting and beating on myself because I want to be doing two different things at once. And the truth is, I really actually need to hire somebody. I need an assistant to do this particular thing so I can actually go over here and work on some traditional art, you know? And I'm just kind of, you feel like it's trying to pull tree roots out. You can't do it. I sat and watched, um, somebody re-landscaped the yard, and you know, he had a tractor and everything else, and he wanted to pull this tree out of this one particular area because it was in the middle of um, a plane, and he leveled different planes of the yard and stuff, and I'm just watching him try and pull this tree out, and it wasn't happening. He didn't have equipment strong enough to do that, and that tree is still there, and you know, it looks beautiful the way it is. I wanted to put a thing around it. But anyway, that's the gist of it. I mean, people will try and pull you up and tear you away from something, you know, but you know your roots deeply. You know, how far back does this go? There was a thing that I was posting about Pong. I'm like, you want to know how far back this geeky tech thing goes? Me playing Pong with my dad at 5. So this piece is just really about, you know, you can go fly away or whatever, but come back and stay connected to yourself, your own roots, and don't let others, like, sucker you into an argument about nothing. I mean, really nothing. Because if you know, you just got to stay grounded. That's the point of this piece. And I'm a very head in the clouds, feet on the ground kind of person. That's why photography works so well for me. But I'm gonna say photography is just another branch on the limb or another root. There's deep roots there about the photography stuff too for me. So I'm not actually surprised that I ended up working at a family photography place, you know, or studio. So I'm a very, don't forget where you came from. You can move on from other people or places or things and never want to revisit them again or need to. Or, you know, like you get a certain skill set down, you don't need to go back and learn it again. You may have to go brush up now and then, but you know, you have that foundation. And this is what this piece is really about, having a solid foundation. You know, trees are resilient. They can, outside of even, I mean, fires, they really, you know, they can, you, there were really tall trees in my yard, and, you know, really bad windy. I had a tornado actually swipe the house and sat, and the whole yard was full of trees, and I only lost 1 or 2 trees because they're really resilient. They are really rooted and can't be easily moved or swayed to change their life direction. And I've tried to explain this to other people, that this art thing, even if I never become the success that they see, you know, an artist should be or whatnot, my own personal triumphs are my own. And they're, you know, I may have just, you know, knocked something out that took me 10 years in the process, and you not even understanding it. You know, that me doing this fractal art was um, quite a long process. Not me doing that day, but it was, you know, I've been doing digital art since 97, 97. Well, no, if you really go back, I've been doing digital art since I was 14. That's the first time I came across it and had to learn to work it. So, you know, people don't sometimes understand how deeply rooted you are in something. they're just seeing the surface or whatnot. There's one person, and he was all like, well, yeah, Dana can tell you anything about music back to blah, blah, blah. Probably, like, well, 60s on, you know. And well, some 50s music, too. A lot of 50s music. But, some even farther back than that, and not really, he knows that about me, but doesn't really, where does it come from kind of thing, or where did it come from? They don't ask. And I think what's interesting when I listen to, like, musicians or people that I feel are creative, this is the kind of stuff I'm interested. Where did you get that inspiration or that idea, or what's that mean to you, or where did it come from? What are the roots in it? What's the story behind it? And that's kind of why I'm talking about some of this stuff. It's not so I can get up here and melee somebody. To me, it's just another thing that has to be done in the whole promoting yourself on the web thing. And it's something podcasts came out, geez, I don't know when, sometime in the or late 90s or something like that. I'm like, I don't want to be a DJ too. I go down to the bar and do that. But I'm starting to understand it's just part of putting creative stuff together, And I hope people enjoy these stories and try to can get more depth about a piece, or it looks simple but complicated, and most art is. Even somebody drawing a stick figure, there was more to it than um, she'd let on. And that was my grandma. She'd draw stick figures kicking some boy's butt. She's gonna set them straight. That's hilarious. Anyway, that's kind of what this piece is about. Just kind of moving, head in the clouds, feet on the ground, sort of point of view. And this is a really, if you like up close examine it, it's very detailed. And people's lives are a lot more detailed than, there's tons of leaves on the ground floor of a forest. There's mushrooms, there's this, there's that, there's all this different life going on. And I hope that that's kind of what this conveys. There's way too more to the picture. There's the, big picture, and then there's the details. And they all matter. And what level of it do you want to understand? To me, there's so much more to the forest than just this point of view. And it's really not a snot thing. This is a point of view that we don't really get to see very often in real life. That not many of us climb trees that high to look down at the ground from that perspective. But it very much was, I felt like, they were looking down at what I was really doing, feeling, and thinking while I was making these art pieces. The the ones that I love that have moved on. And this was a time period in my life I really was looking down, not down, but at the details of all of it, and the past and the present and the future. And I was thinking even of myself, that someday I'm going to be where they're at, looking down on this, and what do I want to leave behind before then? Because there's just some nagging part of me that is, you're not going to be satisfied until you do do some art like this, or whatever. It doesn't matter what kind of art. But if you don't leave a body of work behind. And I've left a lot of my stuff, not all of it, but at least the fractals on different arts sites. So, my kids can see, when all these people say I never get anywhere with it, or, whatnot, that all these people that are going to say, well, that's such a shame, she didn't do anything with her life, my kids can go, no, she did something with her life, look, see? And all those details, like on the ground floor, most people don't pay close attention to them until much later on, and I'm kind of aware of that. Like I said, I can pick things apart too. I just try not to. This is just one particular time it was important in my life that I did kind of look at all the details of daily life and living in a meat suit, and that's a joke from Supernatural. But that we're here for a reason, and I've had this going on with me my entire life about the art. And it really doesn't matter to me which medium it is, whether it's acrylic, traditional, digital, whatnot, that it's just a part of me. It's deeply rooted. And when you go and you look up what really is an artist, say on Google or something, they'll even tell you architects are artists. And I have been surrounded by people that are very creative and very artistic in their own right. I've got a great aunt that was or cousin or whatever that was a photographer. I got a great aunt that was an oil painter. My grandma painted. Um, one one that I had a relationship with a detailed woodworker. You know, they build things, they design things, they, you know, all this creative energy around me, and me, what, supposed to sit here and not partake? And there's one person, if she does listen, that wanted, kind of said, you should go into like um, decorating houses or setting scenes for like, you can set a scene for like showing a house or something. I'm sure more people are aware of it watching all these um, do-it-yourself home programs and stuff. Um, Flipping House is a good example. They set the scene before they show the houses. And I was kind of like, well, why don't you do it? Because she's really into decorating and stuff, and why don't you? That may have been her calling. You're never go do that. I feel like we're like the Romans, that and I don't want to see us go down the same road as the Romans, that but art and culture, they were like at a climax of art and culture. It was so embedded in it that they didn't see just how beautiful it was common to them. And this is kind of what's going on in our society, that it's so common, or you're seeing an explosion of artwork that it's taken for granted. I guess I feel like it's my life mission, outside of my kids, that people understand its importance. So if I'm getting preachy about it, it's not because I want to be up on my high horse. It's or any of that. It's I just want people to understand how much it touches their life. Books, literature, art, music, all of it. And my background really came from very humble, very, I don't even know if I maybe had one rattle, maybe a few toys that, you know, more like that old school of, to an explosion of art in my life, and, getting to just fully absorb that, like, the roots of a tree would soak up the water around them to live. It reflects our life, it reflects our culture, our, you know, just our human existence, and a reflection of that. It's very reflective of, that whole cliche of, does life imitate art or does art imitate life? And it's both. And I just want others to appreciate it and just go, wow, just be grateful. And when you see somebody, an artist struggling, you know, don't, you know, do that whole judging, judging, like me talking about the girl that's taking the shortcuts. I understand why she is. My concern is that I'm not judging her. I'm concerned, because it's deeply, you can tell when you listen to her talk that it's deeply embedded in her that she's an artist, and I don't want her to undermine her own foundation. It's not judgment. It's a kind of looking out for others sort of deal, is kind of why I'm speaking about it. But when you see an artist struggle, or they're really trying to accomplish something and it's taking a long time, that you can't sit around and add to the burden of making them feel like they're a failure because it didn't happen quick enough, or that it's not making enough money, or it's, this is a part of who they are. You either accept them for who they are, or you're just barely scratching the surface. You know, like a tree, you see the bark, I see the rings inside the tree, and how many years this has took, and just how far back this goes. And there will be people that come in your life, and they will try to bend you and break you, and you know pull you up and take you away from something that is just part of who you are. And don't let them. You have to. I say this about having boundaries. I get caught up in trying to help others because it's also part of my nature, that I'll get distracted and won't be focusing, but I'll go right back to working on something, and art related, or creative related. And I'm not the only one. I mean, there's musician. I know one. I can think of one off the top of my head. He gets into photography and something else, not just music, but he's well known for music. I know other musicians that they became artists later on. These, that's just their. It's something who some of us just are. It's not just I want to be. It's I am. I can't help it. It's like my obsession. You have yours, I have mine, and it happens to be art. But that's what this piece is about. My roots, and you know, moving on to the next thing to learn, and what it's an ongoing. I don't think artists. There may be some artists that just do one thing and one thing only, but I don't know many that don't go, well, I need to go learn how to do this too, or dabble in different mediums or ways to do art. So that's what this piece is about. I hope you enjoyed my ramble. If you'd like to support me putting this archive together and doing more um, stories like this and, you know, ramblings. That's why I call them rambling. Anyway, please subscribe as a member on the website. I can share more. I keep a lot private. For anyway, subscribe if you can't. I understand. You know, things are tight for some of us. If you know, maybe you can tip or, you know, subscribe later and support my efforts. If you can't do anything monetarily right now, I understand. Um, you can subscribe on YouTube. You can join me on Facebook. You can. There's other avenues. Go look at the artwork on sites, or pin it on Pinterest, or you know, there's other things you can do. But your support is appreciated. I appreciate you letting me ramble, and I'll talk at you another time.